Welcome to another round of coffee and donuts. I'm Frank, the training director for law enforcement over here at ACT, and this is where I answer your questions about becoming a police officer, succeeding in the career, or passing any phase that you might need to go through. Let's discuss. Before we jump into the questions, you can ask us any question you want on any of our social platform. We get around to answering all of them, and they can be selected to go on here, Coffee and Donuts. In addition to that, we have some other aspects out there that can provide you for some really good training. We have our blog, we have our contact form on our website. Both of those can be found at armagedonct.com. There on the blog, we go into a lot more detail with a lot of different other aspects, such as FTO, the Academy, and more. And in addition, if you want to send us something a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more private, you can send it over to the contact form and we will be glad to answer it over there in a more private setting. Now, these three questions, I like it because they're a little bit all over the place. Let's jump on the first one. How about for 55 for a reserve deputy sheriff? So this individual is asking, hey, I'm 55 years old. I want to look at a reserve deputy sheriff. Honestly, at that age, that's probably the best avenue to break into it, in my professional opinion, for the sheer fact that while age is a factor, a lot of people think that their age when they're, in their late 30s or early 40s or even late 40s is far gone for them. That's not necessarily the case. 55 for a reserve deputy. Yeah, I think if you had a shot, that would be one of your better ones. But it's also going to depend on the department. Some departments can have restrictions based on age, and people say, "Hey, that's not allowed. That's illegal." No, it's not. Certain positions are exempt from certain things. Law enforcement being one of them, the military being another, where they can deny you based on age, based on physical disabilities, things like that. It's those are exempt professions that can actually, what's the term I'm looking for? Um, have You can have a protected class be isolated, so to say. And like I said, those are predominantly age and, physical disabilities or disabilities of some sort. But that's not all the time. And that's not every department. I've seen departments hire back 60-year-olds, and go from there. So yes, I think it's possible. If it's a dream of yours and you want to pursue it, definitely do it. But don't go into it slacking, say, oh, I'm 55. It doesn't put all the effort and consideration it requires. Get all the prep work. Do Just because you're applying for a reserve deputy doesn't mean they're gonna take it easy on you, so to say, in the hiring process. You're gonna need to do all the same other work that you always see us talking about over here in Armageddon with every aspect of the hiring process. So even though it's a reserve deputy position, even though it is you're 55, give it the consideration, because even still in that position, you're going to be out there serving the community, upholding Constitution and protecting people's rights. So keep that in mind. Next question. So, are you generally safe if you've informed them about a mistake on your application ASAP? I won't say you're generally safe, but that is your best option. What I see a lot of people do is a lot of people will wait till they're about to have their background interview with their background investigator, or they're about to have their polygraph. They'll say, "Oh, I'll just bring it up there if it's asked." No, definitely not. Don't do that. Definitely don't do that. Pull the mic closer to say that. Definitely don't do that. That's a bad idea. And if you do that, there's a good chance they're going to DQ you or disqualify you based on those facts, because they're going to think the only reason you're telling them now is because you're afraid you're about to get caught, or they already probably know about it if it's your background, and they're waiting to see if you say anything about it. So yes, if you make a mistake, and this is where I typically see it, someone fills out their PHS in a rush and they go and they submit it, and then they come back later and they read it after a day or two after they've let their brain settle, and they see, oh, that's not accurate. I made a mistake there. That's going to be your best opportunity to say, hey, sir, ma'am, I apologize. I made a mistake. This is the correct information. They might unlock it for you to fix it if it's digital, or they might just say, hey, we'll make a note. And then they might just bring it up during your background investigation, or they might say, remind me. But at least you have documentation. You always want to send an email on this. Always send an email. Don't try to do this one, last minute and over the phone. You want to have it documented in some capacity if you can. I highly recommend it. How can I get my employment history? There's a couple ways to do this. So there's I don't want to say there's organizations out there that do it. One of the things that our background checks can do is look at employment. We typically don't necessarily request a employment verification for our backgrounds, but it is something that our systems can do. In addition to that, um, there's other organizations that specifically do employment verification checks. What I will tell you is if you want your employment history and you want it for free and you want to get as quick access to it as possible, is create a Social Security Administration.gov account, and any job that you've ever legally worked where you've paid taxes on it specifically to Social Security, it is going to be listed in there. It might not have the exact dates, but it should have the months in which you were paying so you can get a really you can pretty much fine tune it down to what it's going to be. That would be and it's free, right? Just don't lose the password and account access because you're going to need it later on in life. But yeah, that's one of the things we tell our coaching members is, hey, if you have any concerns about employment history and memory there, go create a Social Security Administration account and plug in all your information and go that route. I have seen it glitch on some candidates, but for the most part, it's on point. What else is there? Oh, the other thing you can do with employment history is you can, first of all, you want to try and remember what you can remember, but the Social Security Administration is not going to give you the exact breakdown of the disposition or the end result of all your employment. So you're going to want to try to remember as much as possible there. I guess you could seek out a company doing employment verification. I mean, that's one way to do it. I don't think you need to though. If you're diligent and you have enough time, as long as you're not pressed for time, and even if you were pressed for time, I don't know if another company could get it back to you within the time results that you would want. But yeah, there's there's a few things you can do. So just try to be as accurate as possible. And then once you get those departments, reach out to those, or once you get those previous work histories, reach out to them and try to get a point of contact and an email so that you can list it on your background packet. All right, we burned through those. We're trying to get better at this. So I hope this helps. Remember, if you want any of your questions answered, submit them to any of our social platforms, or you can send something over to us privately from our contact form on our website. In addition to that, check out our new blog. There's some great training in there, as well with the rest of our free content here over on our social platforms and our podcast. Stay safe, and I will see you next time.